Do you remember the days we had phones with buttons? No, I'm not talking about volume or lock buttons. I'm talking about the tiny little things for letters and numbers. Well, I do. And as a person who even saw Nokia 3310 in person, BlackBerry phones were like a dream come true for me and for many others. It was truly a legend once, and now it's just a ghost? I mean, from Barack Obama to Kim Kardashian, BlackBerry was a highly demanded and trusted brand. The rumor has it that Mark Zuckerberg used BlackBerry to send his first message on Facebook. What I'm trying to say is that it was a bit disappointing to see them getting destroyed after this huge success. As you already got the picture by now, today we'll be talking about the good old days of BlackBerry and how it completely ruined itself with a huge mistake. Spoiler alert, Apple is not BlackBerry's murderer. So if you're ready, let's dive in. The BlackBerry we know today was initially called Research in Motion, and it was founded by two engineering students, Mike Lazaridis and Douglas Fredgen, in 1984. In the late 1990s, the technology was rapidly evolving, and these guys had some brilliant ideas. As aspiring entrepreneurs, they wanted to get their share of the sector as a consequence of their ideas and solutions. With Jim Balsilie's inclusion to the company, they immediately tried to detect the problems people had been experiencing with their mobile phones and develop a solution. Back then, there were a few obvious problems with the mobile phones, such as small screens, poor batteries, clunky designs, and limited functionality. They knew they could do better, so they introduced the interactive pager 900 in 1996. This was one of the first wireless data devices, and it was nothing like other phones in the market. It was a two-way pager that incorporated email, fax, internet, P2P messaging, besides simple things such as calendars, address book, task manager, alarm, and real-time clock. Its battery was strong as hell, and it was just one of the best devices in the market. Basically, it had everything we have in our phones today. But for the 1990s, it was a brilliant device. RIM thought that businesses would slowly yet surely begin to adopt an email and internet infrastructure, so such devices would gain importance and value. And you know what? It was right. Fun fact, this device was a bulky one, so in time, people started to call it Bullfrog. I mean, I think I understand why. In 1999, the first device that was named BlackBerry was finally introduced. Just like RIM's previous products, this phone's target clientele was business people too, but it wasn't an instant success. Initial sales were a bit slow, but the company had no intention to give up. They kept making better products with larger screens, advanced features, and faster processors. Eventually, all of their hard work paid off, and by the early 2000s, BlackBerry was the brand for business people since they had everything they had ever needed in a device. So, the rise began. RIM didn't stop improving its products. Instead, it proceeded beyond while releasing its first smartphone, BlackBerry 5810, in 2002. Again, the company's target was for business people. This device was RIM's milestone. It's safe to say that BlackBerry 5810, or as its original name, R900, was life-changing in the brand's growth. The interesting thing about this device is that it didn't have a built-in microphone or speaker because RIM wanted it to be introduced as soon as possible, meaning that people had to use a plug-in headset to make and receive calls. No matter what, it was the ultimate product that set RIM apart from the competitors. With its colored screen and full keyboard, brands such as Nokia and Motorola didn't even stand a chance compared to BlackBerry. 3 years after BlackBerry 5810's release, the company introduced BBM, also known as BlackBerry Messenger. It allowed people to share files, create groups, and communicate safely. It was exclusive to BlackBerry users, so I think it lured others too. Again, it was an incredible improvement for business people. In 2008, even the US government approved the use of BlackBerry devices since BBM was pretty safe to use. Besides the government, BlackBerry was highly demanded by major corporations such as Goldman Sachs. The firm used BlackBerry devices to make it easier to communicate with their employees. When we take a look at BlackBerry, we have a reliable, innovative, government-approved brand that became a favorite among many people. So what the hell happened to it? From its design to functionality, everyone loved it and it was a must-have device for most of its customers. How does a brand that is destined for success flop this big? The answer is simple and clear. The brand was so successful that it didn't take its competitors seriously, and it took their success for granted. It assumed their products were indispensable. Well, guess what? RIM was dead wrong. 2007 was RIM's golden age until it wasn't, because the very same year, Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone.
Web looks like, and we tried to make it look as good as we could on these. It usually looks worse, and this is what you get. And of course, this is what you get on iPhone, and you can zoom in and see anything you want.
People were excited for this reinvented phone, but RIM didn't even take this seriously. They thought it had playful features that targeted younger people. Plus, everything was going great for the brand, so why would they bother? I mean, it even became the most valuable company on the Toronto Stock Exchange this particular year. Little did it know, the iPhone was about to be a huge hit. Not to mention, HTC was getting prepared to join the game. In 2008, the very first Android phone, HTC Dream, was released. As opposed to BlackBerry phones, Android and iOS devices were targeting a bigger audience. They weren't exclusively for business people. They were for everyone. They offered better and exciting features like touchscreens and app stores. At this point, BlackBerry was in a position where it was too late for it to catch up with the recent improvements that are offered by its competitors. So it had to be quick, which means the company was reckless, and it took a series of missteps. At first, it failed to satisfy the needs and expectations of their customers. And when the company finally did, it did it wrong. In 2009, BlackBerry launched its own app world to compete with its rivals. But the selection wasn't as promising as the App Store. A year after this failure, BlackBerry finally introduced the BlackBerry Storm, which is the first touchscreen device of the brand. This particular device couldn't succeed at all. It had technical issues, the software was problematic, and its updates were slow, just like the device's touchscreen response. RIM tried to make it up to the customers with another model called BlackBerry Torch. Yet it was another failure. In 2013, RIM changed its name to BlackBerry, but it kept failing. And no matter how hard it tried, it was doomed to fail because of its own mistakes. In 2016, the company decided to give up on producing smartphones. What destroyed RIM or BlackBerry wasn't Apple or any other companies that produced phones. It was its own egoistic approach to the issue. It underestimated other companies and didn't even worry about what they're planning to offer. In the business world, you need to be on alert about what others are doing to see what you can do better. It's an unwritten rule. That's why I think it should have known better, taken its rivals seriously, and tried to do something better than them. But instead, the company thought it was already in a good place, and that would continue forever. It couldn't adapt its products to the change, and when it finally took steps to adapt, it was too late. Therefore, it was doomed to fail. While struggling, BlackBerry didn't even try to produce better phones than Apple's. Instead, it tried to catch up to Apple's quality and improvements and failed, over and over again. If the company had maintained its vision when Mike Lazaridis and Douglas Fredgen started this business, I think BlackBerry would still be around. Because back then, they were good at detecting problems, expectations, and developing the ultimate phones people needed. So with this vision, they could be one step further from its competitors and survive. BlackBerry is no longer a company that produces life-changing phones. Instead, its primary focus is cybersecurity. It helps businesses, government agencies, and safety-critical institutions of all sizes secure the Internet of Things. So today, BlackBerry phones are just a bittersweet memory we have.